So one of the things that I'm really noticing too, and that I think we all need to pay attention to, is how we're talking about remote work. So I think for too long, whenever people talked about remote work, you'd see all these posts on LinkedIn, on Twitter, of people sitting on beautiful beaches with their
Yeah.
computer, typing away and saying, this is what remote work is all about. Well, for one thing, if anybody is going to go and sit on the beach with their laptop, they're crazy.
I know, yeah, mixed priorities, right?
Oh yeah, mixed priorities, and I don't want sand or sea or anything
Yeah.
in my computer. And also it kind of speaks a little bit about, can you just not go to the beach and not do work?
Yeah.
Like, you have to do work at the beach. So I think that whole, the view of that is starting to change, and I think we need to be more intentional. Laurel Ferrer, she is Distribute Consulting. So the first time I heard Laurel speak about this was at Nomad City in Gran Canaria in the fall. And she's passionate about this, that we need to realize that remote work is just not about how convenient it is for the worker, but we need to go big picture. The strengthening that it can bring to economic development. So you can hire people from anywhere in the world, but you can also hire people to work remote right in the communities in which they live.
Mhm.
You don't need to build big buildings. We can build our cities in such a way that it's affordable for them to live in, and people work remote, and then build the support systems around those people. So there are many benefits for the remote worker. There are many benefits for organizations, and there are many benefits for the community. So the conversation is now going to where I believe it should be. Less about me and more about the greater good. And I think even in times that we're going through right now, people are realizing that how much work is actually still happening. And you drive around and you see all of these empty buildings.
Yeah.
So granted, some jobs, they do physically need to be there to do them. And I don't want to diminish that at all. But I think we need to think differently about the benefits of having people work remote and how it cuts down. It cuts down on the environmental footprint. It builds communities, and it helps with the whole infrastructure of an organization. So I think that's where the conversation is going, and where the conversation really needs to keep going. It's not just about me anymore, and how lovely it is to get up and work and put a nice top on but still have sweats on. It's not
Yeah.
about that. This
And
it's a professional career, and it
yeah.
is something that contributes. Yeah.
And it's interesting too, because I think some of the Canadian tech companies are doing this really well, is building innovation hubs in small towns or in small communities and training people locally. So that's a kind of vision of remote working that is not necessarily an individual remote worker on a beach, but it's saying having people who are smart and motivated and want to be in this job, but they want to stay in their hometown. And the fact that they can get these, high paying tech jobs in their small community and stay there where they want to be and still work as effectively as anyone else is a really interesting idea of team and community and kind of distributed working.
Definitely. And I think when we tie it back to the research and the needs that people have, whether it's competencies or personality traits, if these hubs are developed, then those people who have that need for community, who have that need for accountability, who have all of those different needs, can actually find it in their community by working in some kind of a co-working hub where they come together, not necessarily to work there full time, but to have another place to go to right in their community.
Mm-hmm.
In Kelowna, we've got some great co-working spaces, and not just the big name ones, but smaller private ones that are doing an amazing job. And there's a group of just a couple of people actually, and they're doing the thing, I think it happens in London as well, where during the day when restaurants aren't open or aren't busy, they're using those as co-working spaces.
Oh yeah.
And their vision in Kelowna is to have one in each area in Kelowna, so that local people can stay in their community, come together, collaborate, go back to their homes and work, or even if they are working in a building, or if they're working down in Vancouver, or they're working somewhere else, they still have a place to go where they can find community and have the needs met so that they can be successful. And it is building into the community, and it's keeping their money in the community. That's where they're living. That's where they're buying their food, where they're buying their homes, where they're coaching soccer teams, because they can live in the smaller communities and help build those, rather than go to big cities to try to find work and not be able to afford to live.
Yeah.